Bellingwood Vignettes by Diane Greenwood Muir. Book 15, Vignette number 3, Mean People Stink. Jeff acknowledged Kristen with a tiny wave as he walked past her. Once inside his office, he carefully shut the door so no one could accuse him of slamming, even if he wanted to slam it shut. He dropped into the sofa and stared out the window to the parking lot. Why in the world was it so difficult for people to see the truth of what was right in front of them? Screaming, "You're wrong, you stupid idiot," seemed inappropriate, even though it would have made him feel so much better. Everyone else in town knew it, but no one dared say anything. There were times he missed the city. Small towns were great and all, but sometimes they could be so narrow-thinking. The fear of all these new people moving into Bellingwood and the surrounding area had a few folks on the city planning committee in a complete panic. Hell, he couldn't even figure out how they'd gotten there. They didn't want to plan for the city. They wanted to stop any plans that might mean something great was going to happen. They flat out refused the proposal to purchase land on the south side of town, just beyond Sycamore House, to put in a new park. It didn't matter that a new development was going to go up right behind it. One man had the audacity to stand there and tell the assembled group that he saw no signs of growth in Bellingwood, and he refused to accept anything that would cost the city money. It didn't matter that the city's revenues were stronger now than they had been in the last 10 years. What was he planning to do with all those funds anyway? A soft knock at his door caught Jeff off guard. "What?" he snapped. Stephanie opened the door, her eyes flitting from his desk where she expected him to be, to the couch. "Are you okay?" "I'm mad." "Bad meeting?" "Stupid, small-minded rural Iowans who can't see the beauty of the forest because they're stuck trying to decide whether they should water the damn tree." She chuckled. "So, bad meeting. I want to know what that man thinks we're going to spend the money on. Does he have a better plan for it? No. He just doesn't want to see any change. He fought the rezoning of that land for the developments." "Who is this?" she asked, pushing the door closed as she came in and sat down at the table. "Gary Lyle." Stephanie frowned in thought and shook her head. "I don't know him, do I?" "He's got that garage on the north side," Jeff snarled. "He doesn't even live down here. His kids don't live down here. His mother doesn't live down here. That man got involved because he has a nasty mouth and he likes to hear himself complain." "But he wasn't the only one if he managed to kill the proposal," Stephanie said. "That's because people are too wimpy to stand up against him and his big mouth. They were fine with it until he started talking about money." He slammed the arm of the sofa. "Damn it! The reason it failed was because he told them that we couldn't guarantee that in 5 years the city wouldn't run out of money, so we should put it in a bank rather than invest in the kids of our community. Bah!" he spat. "Because Bellingwood isn't going to continue to grow, and we're obviously going to be strapped for cash in 5 years. He shook his head. "I need to let this go." "You can't fix it," Stephanie agreed. "No, it was just so ugly. There was no reason for it, and he turned everything sour and mean. People walked out of that meeting worked all up into a lather because of a park. No need. No need." He looked up at her. "Did you want something?" Stephanie smiled and pushed a piece of paper across the table. "I got them." "Got who?" "The big band I wanted for the dance. They agreed to come up for a midweek gig." "But I thought—" Jeff smiled. "What did you do?" "Well, they were worried about the late drive back to Des Moines and that most of the band had to go to work the next morning. The band leader hadn't even really asked anybody else because whenever they've tried to do this in the past, it fell apart. But I called that friend of Ryan Williamson's." Jeff nodded. Ryan was one of the owners of Secret Woods Winery and had one of the biggest networks he'd ever known. "Okay." "Well, he plays trombone in the band. I met him in Des Moines for lunch last week. Remember when I took Kayla for the afternoon?" "I thought you were just taking time off," Jeff said with a grin. "It appears you need to actually take some time off now." "Well, I took him out to lunch and explained what we wanted, and he hadn't heard anything about it, so he was going to do some checking." "And?" Jeff said. "And I have a signed contract. I just got back from a meeting with the band leader and this guy. They had a conference call with the band members, and everybody thought it would be fun. So they're coming." Jeff laughed and jumped up from the sofa. I can't believe you did it. I'm so proud of you, and you didn't say a word. I didn't want to jinx it. We already had a no response, so what else could happen? She rolled her eyes. I was so nervous. That's why I took Kayla. I needed someone there who thought I could do it. She believes I can move mountains. Apparently you can, Jeff said. This is so fantastic. Good job, Stephanie. Thank you. I just had to put my big girl panties on and face down the monster. Do you want to face down my monster? I can drop you off at Gary's garage and let you take him out. I'll even bring Kayla along if that would help. She shook her head. I don't think so. The only monster I had to face was my own fear. If it were an actual monster, I might have tried to lie down and whimper. Urgh, he growled. I don't know what I'm going to do. Why don't you call Ryan? He looked at her, tilting his head in confusion. Williamson? Yeah. Those kinds of guys are always looking for ways to help out the community. It's a tax break for them. I'll bet that if you talk to 8 or 10 businesses in town, you could convince them to buy the property and give it to Bellingwood. Then ask them to help build the playground and put a big entrance stone or something with the names of all the donors on it. If the only reason you can't put a park in out there is because you don't have funding, it's ridiculous to let that stop you. People want to help. They just need to know about the opportunity. Jeff smiled and shook his head. I let my anger shut down my good sense. Of course you're right. The thing is, everyone in town knows now what a jerk Gary Lyle is. Yeah, they probably knew beforehand, Stephanie said. He's not going to change. But you don't have to change either. You just have to keep doing what you know is right. He hugged her and then headed for his desk. You are amazing. Thanks for bringing me back from the brink. Just another reason for you to keep me. One in a very long list, he said.